What is up, my plantriotic, plant loving, and plant interested peeps out there? Welcome to another episode of the podcast. I'm really coming at it hard. Yesterday, I recorded an episode with V-Gain Strength, my buddy Ferdinand over in Germany, who had some inspirational stuff to say. And I'm feeling jacked up on the podcast because I'm always interested in bringing on my friends, seeing what they're up to. And it's honestly a great excuse just to catch up, with old friends that I haven't talked to in a few months, like our guest today. Before we get right into this episode, a few quick things. This episode is again sponsored by Daily Green Boost. They're an awesome company that provides super nutrient dense green powder that you can buy on their website. You throw it in your smoothies, on your salad, whatever you want. It tastes pretty earthy and good if you're into that kind of thing, but most importantly, it's filled with all of this micronutrition that you could never really get enough from eating whole foods. You know, it's Fiber February. It's important to eat your salads and all your greens, but if you are an athlete like Harrison or myself, who's pretty physically active, you throw in some of that Daily Green Boost and it just tops off your stores of nutrient dense goodness that's good for your immune system. It's even good for like weight loss and feeling satiated because you're just being flooded with nutrients and your body's like, all right, I'm good. And if you use Plantriotic in the as your discount code when you buy it online on dailygreenboost.com, you get 10% off of your order. So it's a win for you, win for me, because it helps support the podcast and YouTube channel a little bit. And my friend Jamie is a high carb vegan who runs the company Daily Green Boost. So it's all within the fam. Other than that, thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting just good, inspirational, free vegan content. If you like what I do and you want to continue seeing Maggie, my dog, and I bike all over the world doing awesome stuff, and you want to see some additional videos that I don't post free to the public, the way that you can do all those things is just to pledge $1, $2, $3, $5 to my Patreon page. Thank you to everyone who's been coming out and doing that. I'm going to start shouting out all the new patrons on my YouTube channel, and it really is what fuels the channel. I don't really make my money off of YouTube anymore. It's from your guys' helpful donations on the Patreon page, so I appreciate that. And that's pretty much it. Time to now get into this conversation with Harrison. Harrison, if you were to put yourself in a box, give me a few labels that define your being in the winter of 2018 in this present moment.
Ooh, skateboard, cyclist, runner, musician, vegan, hippie. My dad would call me granola-y.
Those are great things. High school student, is that still, are you
Sure.
still in school,
high school senior,
or have you dropped,
accepted officially to Naropa University.
No way, dude. Are you going there?
That's right. I'm going.
In
I
the
applied.
fall?
That's the only place it's the only place I applied.
I mean, you have no idea what that means to me. Tell the people what Naropa University is, which is dear to my heart. I've been to some art shows at Naropa. I have a friend that went to Naropa. I went to school in Colorado, so I know how epic this is that you're about to enter this community. But tell people what Naropa is.
So shortly, it's a very, very small school in Boulder, Colorado, like across the street from the UC Boulder campus. It has like a less than 400 person undergrad, and it's just a very alternative kind of hippie school. I'm sure me and you both know a lot of people in our kind of circle that go there, and kind of founded on Buddhist philosophy. And, we're definitely, me and you, the kind of people who you would see there.
Yeah, feel free to speak a tiny bit quieter, which will be good for your voice. And I'm just looking at the outputs, and my mic is a little bit lower than yours. So just talk a little bit quieter for the benefit of people's ears.
I got you.
But yeah, so that's really exciting, dude. What I know about Naropa is it's a completely different college experience. Yeah, I think, wasn't it founded by like some kind of beatnik? Isn't it involved with Allen Ginsberg in some sense?
It's like this Buddhist philosopher whose last name was Naropa, and he wanted to like merge Western and Eastern philosophies and let them flourish, and that was kind of his deal.
And is it the kind of place where, like, do they have specific majors, or is it all just independent? You kind of create your own flow there.
No, they have specific majors, and I'm going to study music. But it's funny because their core curriculum, their like core classes you have to take are like yoga and like Buddhist
Yeah.
philosophy. And
It's not like calculus and econ
yeah,
one and yeah, dude,
exactly,
and you're in the middle of Boulder, which is going to be an incredible city for you. You know, you've lived your whole life in New York City, right?
exactly.
And now you're about to be, you know, training at high elevation, being with mountain people. And Boulder reminds me of you because it's such a great combination of like startup culture, really like professional people within the fitness world, but also just kind of earthy and connected to the mountains. It's like it's a very practical hippie place to be. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
And it's just perfect for people training like you who are really into optimizing their physical performance because you're at 5,000 feet of elevation.
yeah. And
Ah,
I'm not just the fact that you're at 5,000 feet of elevation, but just like the infrastructure there is great for training.
yeah, you have a lot of hiking and a lot of mountains and windy roads to climb. Although with your training on the skateboard specifically, I know you do a lot of cross training. Do you ever really train on hills? Probably not.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you do.
Oh hell yeah.
Tell me how that
Because
looks.
like, go for it.
Well, I was gonna say tell me how that looks, but really you just have to explain to people first because they have no idea what it means that you're training on a skateboard. So let's just go back and hear about, you know, what you've committed a lot of your life to and sort of your story a little bit over the last few years that I've known you. But I just want to emphasize again, I am so proud of you, dude, and so I don't want to say jealous, but I'm really excited for you that you've chosen to go to Naropa. That's a big deal. You finally know where you're going to college, and it's just such a perfect place. You're gonna have an incredible community inside and out of school. You're gonna have, you know, I know a ton of people in Boulder that I'm sure you'll integrate with, and you know, your buddy Jackson, who you've been on their podcast before, is now back
Yeah.
in Boulder. You're gonna have so many vegan training partners and such a good community, and I just can't wait to watch you continue to bloom just because you're such an inspiring dude at a youthful age, and I'm just proud of you. Way to go, man.
Thank you so much, dude.
But
But
yeah,
yeah, let's go back.
tell us your story.
So I race longboard skateboards. Uh, Mainly the race that I like the most is called the 24-hour ultra skate. So that's 24 hours on a track that's, you know, about a mile and a half to 2 miles, depending on what the race is. And whoever can do the most laps in 24 hours wins. And if you're going for the win, you're not stopping. So you're riding 24 hours nonstop. You gotta eat, sleep, and not sleep. You gotta eat, drink, and pee while moving. But you know, we also race races as short as the mile.
And where is this 24-hour race held? Is it on a loop? Is it on a racetrack? Is it out in the
Yeah,
streets?
it's on a loop. So the main two big ones are the Miami Ultra Skate. So that's actually on the Homestead NASCAR track, which is sick. And then the other big one is in Haarlem, Netherlands, which is like an hour away from Amsterdam. And that one's on a track specifically made for bike racing. Not like a
So,
velodrome track, but it's like a
right.
2 mile loop.
Okay. So a 2 mile loop in 24 hours, and you're pushing over 200 miles.
Way over 200 miles. My best is 295 and a half.
Okay, so 300 miles on a 2 mile loop. So you're doing the same loop over 100 times.
Yeah, like 150 times or more.
Okay. I mean, that's unlike any endurance race I've heard of, you know, because most of these hundreds, well, really the only other sports that do something like 100 miles is biking and ultra running, pretty much.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
both of those courses, I mean, maybe there are, I actually, yeah, I've heard of some ultra running where it's like a 3 mile loop and you just do it a million times and everyone complains and it's so hard. But that's like also, you know, you have your feet on different surfaces, you're on rocks, you have different curves. You're doing like the same thing every time.
Hmm.
So this is a game of spiritual, meditative pushing through in equally as much to the physical endurance of never stopping doing this really hard movement of moving a skateboard under your feet, plus the balance, the mind numbingness. What attracted you to such a fringe and small interesting sport versus like saying I'm just going to become a runner? There's so many more opportunities to run, bike races. Why did you go to skateboarding?
Well, I've skateboarded my whole life. I started at 4 or something. I would watch all the skateboard movies and all the old, trick skating
Dogtown
things. Exactly.
Dogtown Z Boys, Rodney Mullen, dude,
all those guys.
Me too.
Especially Rodney. And yeah. I was a big fan, and I rode skateboards and there was, a great skateboarding community in the city. And then I kind of got more into the longboard community. And we would just kind of hang out all day in Central Park and ride longboards and, skate from one spot to another. And by doing that, we ended up skating, often 15, 20 miles a day. Not a ton, but it was hard. And we would just spend all day outside. And then I started hearing things about this big 24-hour racing down in Florida. And I didn't really know what I was getting myself into, but I got some plane tickets and went down and just totally destroyed myself and did horribly.
How old were you on your first race? And can you even push the microphone even further away from you? It's still showing up louder than mine. All right.
Yeah, and I'll try and talk lower.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's something I should fix on the Skype. I'm just new to figuring out the Skype thing, and I see that my mic is quieter than yours. All right. So yeah, how old were you when you decided to do this first race?
I think 12 or 13.
That's wild. I was, and this is what I want to investigate with you. When I was 12 or 13, just the concept of physically pushing my body for a race was just so out of my field of interest. All I was interested in was climbing the social hierarchy in my middle school, hooking up with girls, and I guess I like to skateboard, but just for an hour or something. Have you always been driven to excel personally at something and be competitive, or was this more just for the love of skating? How did it feel as a 12 or 13-year-old? Why were you going to this race? What was getting you excited about it?
Well, I've always been very competitive against myself, but really the only reason I showed up at this race was all my friends were doing it. It was as simple as that. It was everyone I hung out with was going to the race. All right, let's go and see what it's about. So I showed up, gave it a shot, did terribly, but totally fell in love with it. And I actually wrote my college essay about this. And
about that first race?
Partially about that first race, but also just my philosophy on that in general. And why I think I fell so in love with this. And my whole life has been so incredibly easy, and I'm sure you can relate to this.
Yes.
Straight white male, lives in New York City. The hardest thing I had to do was walk to school.
Supportive parents, financial privilege. Yeah.
So it was just all I had to do in life was just kind of float along and do nothing.
Yeah.
And there was no expectations of me or anything. And
so you needed to create an intense struggle because you saw the world around you experiencing the struggle, but you weren't getting it yourself.
Yeah. And when, I have this amazing cushy life, but you don't appreciate it because everything is cushy. That's just your baseline.
Yeah.
Your baseline is most of the world's most amazing, wildest dream.
Yeah.
And so you come out of this place of suffering in this race where, you break yourself down completely and really figure out what you're made of. And you come back to your everyday life and you just feel so incredibly blessed.
Yeah, it's another reason why we probably became such good friends and connected with each other, because that's pretty much my exact story too. Although I didn't discover the need for self-inflicted suffering until I got a bit older. I had things where I self-harmed myself, like biting my fingernails, which actually through some therapy and talking it through, I think might have been a manifestation of me trying to create problems in my life because I simply didn't have any around me. I debilitatingly bit my nails from the age of 8 years old to 18. I stopped biting my nails for the first time when I left high school, about your age, when I left for my gap year, and I stopped doing it. but it happened to be when I went to ride my bicycle across the country. I inflicted all of this hardship and physical pain on my body, and boom, I didn't need to bite my nails anymore. So I think this is a really interesting concept of like the white man's burden, where, you know, I think, sometimes I listen to the Joe Rogan podcast, and, I have a love-hate relationship with the Joe Rogan podcast because I think he's a Neanderthal jerk in many ways and has his nutritional and ethical ideology really fucking skewed. But I also love the dude because he's such an incredible conversationalist and he's really funny and brings on incredible guests. So I listened to his podcast, and there was a guy, I think his name is Sebastian Junger, but he writes this book about humans' innate desire to go through battle with fellow humans. This concept of people who go to war and experience all of this traumatizing stuff with fellow men or women, and then they come back and they actually get depressed when they come back because they've gone through this intense experience with each other. And that's actually an ingredient for the human experience that we forget to acknowledge. A lot of culture, people have so many problems just based on default, not enough money. How do they support their family? Low wages, income inequality, environmental disasters, political corruption, no access to fresh water. We have so many problems that the default in our human culture is to say, how do you get as safe as possible? But the other spectrum of too much safety, living in a concrete jungle where you never have to worry about outside animals or forces, everything, you have a direction to go, and and everything is cushy, as you said, that's also not a recipe for ultimate success. It's like somewhere in the middle where you don't want to be, starving for calories and fresh water, but you also don't want to be completely protected from a young age without any hardship, because in both of our experiences, we naturally had to gravitate towards self-inflicted struggle. It's really interesting. And something like,
and completely subconsciously, I never thought about how
Exactly.
I was self-inflicted struggle until
Me
years
neither.
later.
Me neither. I had to break all that down and say, why do I love biking across countries where most people are like, that sounds terrible, but that's all the people who grew up with issues. I didn't grow up with any problems, and this is what I have to do now in order to feel normal.
Yeah. Do you know what type 2 fun is?
Type 2 fun. No, tell me about it. I love it. It sounds great.
So type 1 fun is like, we're like playing frisbee or something, and we're like, oh fuck yeah, this is fun, like we're having a good time.
Yeah.
And type 2 fun is like when you're doing something and you're like, oh man, this sucks, and then like immediately after, like a couple days later, you're like, wow, that was so much fun.
Or even 5 minutes later.
Yeah. And that's how it is with me in racing. Like in the race, I'm always like, oh man, this is so hard, I'm suffering, this is terrible. And then like afterwards, I'm like, wow, that was so incredibly epic. I can't wait to do that again.
Yes, that is how I live my life as well. When I have type 1 fun, it has to be for small little increments. My best fun experiences are the type 2 kind. That's where you really feel the intensity of a blissful experience. But tell me, I want to hear more about the skateboard culture. What is the culture like? Is it is it a running culture? Is it more of a skating, like surfer dude culture? And who are the kinds of people? Is it a bunch of high school kids like you, or are you the kid that all the older guys pick on, even though you're like just up with them at the high levels? Like who are the people in these races? Also, is it co-ed or is it gender segregated?
It is gender segregated. I'm not racing against the girls, and the girls aren't racing against me. And to be honest, the female categories are really lacking. We have a big problem with like just participation and getting the girls out there. And I think we're all working hard to do that. So if there's any girls out there who want to get into this and are maybe interested, maybe you have a little bit of a background in skateboarding, or maybe you have a background in running or cycling or something like that, and it sounds interested, I'm more than happy to help you out.
Nice.
But the culture is really awesome because you have this kind of element of like cycling or running where you have all these people who want to like nerd out on the gear, and there's, rules and etiquette in the racing. But at the same time, it's meshed with this like hippie skateboard surf culture where like a lot of guys are still racing in like surfing shorts, like board shorts. And, you're younger and you're trying to break into the scene. I got picked on a lot, and you kind of have to work up your hierarchy. But it's so incredibly supportive. I mean, obviously, once you start racing, it's every man for themselves and there's no friends.
Yeah.
Most of the time. But everyone is such good friends. All these guys at the top who are incredibly competitive with each other are just amazing friends off the board. And we all hang out year round when we're not racing. We'll all meet up in, anywhere in the States and have little training camps, and it's really awesome. And the vegan community is insane in skating as well.
All right. Well, we gotta talk about that. When did, so you started devoting a lot of time and energy as a 12-year-old to skating, and you really have you gone through peaks and valleys of interest, or have you been pretty focused since then for the last 6 years of your life?
Pretty focused. I always have, intentional breaks where I'm like, okay, I just had a really big 24-hour race. And if I, continue training like I just was, I know this is not.
Oh no, yeah, you gotta take your time off, but you've never given 2 years that fell through where you stopped.
No, I'm always like, all right, I'll take a couple months and I'll do some more running races and do some more cycling
and is the fire right now in your life? Because you have a lot of things that you're interested in. You're interested in nutrition. You're about to be a college student. You're clearly interested in your spiritual practice and just evolving as a human being. Is skateboarding still really high on the totem pole of your lifestyle right now?
Yeah, it is.
Awesome.
But all those things for me really mesh besides school. School's the one thing that, fights it.
Dude, well, you're about to completely turn on its side the concept of what going to school means. So you're no longer in a concrete institution.
Yeah, that's what we're praying for, right?
Yeah, I didn't like school either, man. I never did.
So, but all my other interests really, really, really mesh together well. Nutrition and spiritual practice and all those things really mesh well with endurance.
So what was your diet like when you were a 13-year-old getting into long distance skateboarding?
Like Oreos, Coke, and dollar pizza.
Yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, one, you're a kid, so you can eat whatever you want, and two, you're running and cycling and biking a ridiculous amount, so that's double the reason where you can eat anything. So tell me what changed. Walk me through that process of when you started to get into what you were putting into your body.
Well, I started riding a little bit more, and I started kind of doing a little bit better in some races, and I was looking at some different things and kind of getting interested, okay, well, different training strategies, different nutrition things, started hearing some things around. There's a lot of guys kind of in the scene that I was riding with talking about veganism and plant-based diets, and we all kind of together just got into that, really ironically. So now there's out of the I'm going to say out of the top 15 best guys out there in long distance skateboarding, probably 7 or 8 of them are vegan.
Wow, so it was like a community effort. You were all the best at it, so you were just talking amongst yourselves, what can we do to take this to the next level? And you communally agreed on going plant-based?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
And
we all just kind of one by one started ticking over.
Who were the other guys that were in this community?
Well, kind of one of the first ones was this guy, Eric Palmer, who's, total hippie with the full beard. The guy looks like Jesus. And he was actually the second person ever to do 300 miles in the ultra skate. But that was years after we were all vegan. And Will Frank and his brother, Max Frank, those are both big teammates of mine and big friends of mine who we train together year round. Both of them and probably my biggest teammate slash friend slash training partner, Kyle Yan, who you'll see all over my Instagram
Yeah, I know
as
Kyle.
well. Oh yeah, you actually know Kyle.
Yeah. So that's fascinating because, usually if you take a spectrum of 10 people who are really interested in any sport, you might find like three or four different dietary philosophies just because there's so much information out there. You have high fat paleo runners, you have vegan runners, you have raw people, all these different types of diets. Um, did you go through like a research phase where you questioned like which diet should we approach, or did someone mention plant-based and you kind of all rode with that and it made sense? Was there any sort of deliberation? I'm just curious how that process
I
went.
actually distinctly remember this one ride that we were doing, and we all went out and we were riding this trail called the Putnam Trail, which goes from like the Bronx to like Connecticut and back. It's like this 100-mile route that we were doing at the time pretty often. And we all just started talking, and we were all like, we all just coincidentally were like looking at this whole plant-based vegan performance thing. I was like, yeah, I heard this lecture by Brendan Brazier, and they were all like, oh yeah, I heard that too. And it was just like, oh wow, like somehow our like, who knows what it was? Maybe it was just our like Google, cookies throwing everything at us in the
Yeah.
same way, or maybe it was meant to be, but we all kind of just stumbled upon it and kind of started trying it out and just fell into it and felt amazing. And the amount that we've all progressed since then is just astronomical.
And how old are you at this time?
See, this was probably 4 years ago, so I was about 13 or 14.
Oh my gosh. And what are your parents thinking about all this? You're in this community of adults who are into a fringe sport that your parents probably don't fully understand, or maybe they've just been so progressive and supportive of you that they're like, "Oh, this is like a real cool thing." But they were probably like, "Why is my kid so obsessed with this?" And now as a 13-year-old, he's going vegan. Like, what was your family dynamic like? Were they just totally awesome and supportive, or were they pretty questioning of your habits?
They were pretty awesome and supportive. There was like 2 or 3 times where my mom was like, what the hell is this about? But besides that, they were like, all right, just do your thing, figure it out.
That's pretty cool,
And
man. It's
that's
another
pretty much the
reason.
way they've been with like everything. They're like, all right, you want to like go to Florida and do a 24-hour race? Like, go for it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I get a lot of comments from young people whose parents just give them hell for trying to better themselves and explore their human experience. So, yeah, it's another reason to feel super grateful. Your parents sound awesome. I'd love to meet them someday.
I'm sure
Maybe
you'll meet him eventually.
I'm sure I'll come to one of your races someday. I need to see you in that mode. So why don't you also explain real quick what it entails physically, what it looks like, what kind of shoes are you wearing, what does the skateboard look like, and also how are you pedaling?
Um, well, we'll start at the gear, I guess. As far as like off the board gear, uh, pretty much across the board, everyone's using some sort of minimalist running shoe. A lot of guys really like the Vibram 5-finger shoes, myself included, which is funny because I really hate them for everything else except skateboarding. Like I would never wear them doing anything else except skateboarding.
Well,
Um,
if you think about it, the impact when you're pushing on the skateboard, it's different than if you are running, right? Because there's almost a sense of cushion because one of your feet is on like a slightly flexible board, and it's not like you're pressing down, you're sort of pressing, out and back, right?
yeah,
Is
you are pressing down a bit. For some reason, I feel that the impact on your foot and on your feet is actually more than it is when with running,
okay.
but somehow the impact on like your joints is less so.
Yeah, like I can't explain it, but just visually running, there's just a lot of constant little pounding, and the skateboard, you probably take less pedals. Oh yeah, this is why. you can pedal your, like, let's say you had to pedal 100 meters. The amount of times that your foot is going to touch the ground is a much smaller number than the amount of times a runner's foot would touch the ground.
That's true.
Because you're going so much faster. So it
Yeah, and the cadence is also a little bit less.
Right. It's not like you're just going boom, boom on each side. You probably pedal and glide for a bit and then pedal and glide. It's almost like a swimmer's cadence with on land. All right.
It's insightful.
So, yeah. I don't know. I don't know anything. I'm just commenting on watching your Instagram photos and shit. Okay, so everyone wears a minimalist shoe
Pretty much, just about, yeah.
and you're in like full on just kind of spandex like a runner would, sort of.
Yep.
Although
Yeah.
but you're not wearing like elbow pads or knee pads, just a helmet.
I honestly like never fall.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I can't, and no one's wearing pads.
Does
But
anyone not?
helmets are required, and my
Okay.
rule is if you're ever skating faster than you can walk, then you should be wearing a helmet.
Of course, it's just stupid not to.
Exactly.
All right, and then the skateboard is like a pretty low to the ground longboard, and like you guys should just go while you're listening to this podcast, go on Harrison's Instagram. What's your Instagram?
Harrison_NYC.
Yeah, so check him out, and you can see what this stuff looks like, and I think you have a few little videos on there too.
Yeah.
And it's wild, man.
So the board's pretty low to the ground, so what that does is you actually don't have to bend down as much and
Right.
able to touch the ground, so that takes a lot of pressure off the quad.
Yes. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Is that the biggest muscle that gets just destroyed during these races, or your quads?
Yeah, so the big misconception is you would think that the leg that's doing the pushing is the one that's taking the beating, but
Right.
it's really the leg that's on the board,
Yeah.
because you're basically like doing a pistol squat
Yep.
over and over, 15 times on one leg, switching 15 times on the other leg, and that's brutal.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot of quad, and then on the leg that's kicking, you get a lot of like impact kind of through your calf, but then you're using mostly hamstring and glute to pull your leg back.
Mm. And so you have a community in New York City that, well, I know you have Kyle who lives in the city who you skate with, but it's pretty much everyone else. Like, are there any other professional long distance skateboarders in the city, or do you kind of train with Kyle and then you meet up with your other community at different events?
Kyle's the only other kind of professional in the city.
Yeah.
It's not really the best place to live if you want to be skating
Right.
big miles all the time.
Right. So,
But we've got a lot of teammates up in Maine, some guys in Boston, kind of all over the East Coast. We've got a good amount.
okay.
So a couple times a year, even when we're not racing, we'll meet up and do little training camps for 3-4 days.
Right. So how are your school friends? Do you have a school friend community that you can like bro out and talk to about emotional stuff and do you have a support system of people like that, or is it mainly your like vegan and bike friends? Like what do your school friends think about your intense passion? Have you integrated some of your friends into that lifestyle, or like what is your experience being also just like a normal high school student?
It's an interesting question because my high school life is like so incredibly different from my, skating, vegan life. Everyone in my school kind of knows, and I'm sure some people in my school are going to dig up this podcast because last time I did a podcast that happened, and all my teachers it had like spread throughout my teachers, and it was kind of funny.
Well, we won't reveal too many secrets then.
That's no big deal. I have a pretty chill small school, but and my friend group is super supportive of all this stuff. And they're actually, they progressively get more and more into it, and they're all pretty like healthy, fit people. Uh-oh, I just lost your audio.
No, you didn't lose my
Oh,
audio.
oh, there
I
we go.
muted myself so I could make an Insta story.
Oh, my bad, my bad.
It's all
Yeah,
good.
super supportive friend group at school. Not too many kind of like bro friend group guys. Uh, More female friends, just friends. But yeah, somehow with people younger, I tend to connect more with females.
Hmm.
I mean,
Um,
I know you also have a lot of female people who are just friends.
I do, man. Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. Some of my best friends are dudes, but generally speaking, I guess I embrace my feminine energy a bit more than the average like high school kid, and I definitely did back then too. I was always interested in knitting and crafts and like talking about stuff and uh instead of like playing, tackle football or whatever. I always connected with kind of more of a female mindful energy. Um, so yeah, there's another thing that we have in common. What are you most excited about leaving New York, and then most sad about leaving New York City as you're about to go move to Boulder, Colorado?
Well, I'm just so incredibly excited to be in Boulder. You know, there's such great music in Boulder, and I'm excited to start playing around there and to be studying music at Naropa, and really integrating that community as well as have some awesome people to ride with out there, including Jackson. Ride bikes with,
Yeah, that's gonna
great
be
running
epic.
community, and just all the awesomeness that comes with Boulder in general. But it's sad. I have to leave a lot of friends behind. I'm not going to see my family so much. My family's convinced that I'm never coming back, which they might be right.
Yeah,
Um,
it's all
and
right.
I love New York
They'll
City.
come
Like,
and visit you.
yeah, New York City sucks in a lot of ways, but it does have this kind of energy and mutual respect among New Yorkers, where it's like, all right, we just gotta like get through our shit together.
Yeah. I love to visit the city. I could never live there though. So yeah,
Yeah,
let's get into music. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, you're a drummer.
correct. Primarily.
And tell me specifically what kind of drumming. Are you a jazz drummer, rock drummer?
I like to play a lot of mostly jazz, but I play everything. I love to play funk. I love to play reggae. I love to play rock as well.
So
Um,
sick.
but I've been playing guitar a lot recently. That's come super naturally, more naturally than any
Wow.
other instrument I've ever played.
Wow. And is that like changing the potential direction of what you're going to study in school?
Yeah, because there's only so much theory that goes along with drums, because basically every instrument has that rhythm aspect into it,
Mm-hmm.
but the fact that there's not notes and chords and harmony and melody in drums makes it a lot different.
Hmm. But that's interesting that you were able to pick up the guitar so well because that's all about chords and melody and
Yeah,
combinations.
well,
And
I've also been playing piano for a while and playing bass guitar for a while. So the combination of drums, bass guitar, and piano all just
dude,
kind of meshed together, and I was like, oh, guitar makes perfect sense.
is this a common thing for people who excel at something like skateboarding to also have a passion that you're also really good at? Or is this like, most people at this high level, like you're skateboarding, people should know. Would you say you're one of the top 10 best in the world right now?
Yeah, I would say that.
Okay, so
Probably
that's
five,
okay, so that's
five to
not
seven.
right. That's a big responsibility. How are you? When does music? Like walk us through a typical day or week to explain how you uh, divide the time because both of those sports or both the sport of
Activities.
skateboarding and both activities are extremely time resource sensitive. Like it's not something you can just spend a solid 30 minutes on a week. Like these things take a lot of time from your life. So how do you balance the workflow of that? Or is it more like in the winter time you're into music and in the summer you're into physical activity, or do you integrate them on a daily basis together?
Daily basis. So I'm lucky enough that my school has a really good music program. So I have an hour and a half of music classes a day. I have 2 classes a day of music, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. But I also play for probably 2 to 3 hours every night. Yeah, I play a little of everything kind of every night. It's a little drums, a little piano, a little bass, a little guitar. And, but basically as soon as I come home from school, I'm on the board or I'm running or I'm riding my bike for, depending on what I'm training for and depending on the part of the year, anywhere from like 2 to 4 hours on school days and like 6 to 8 hours on weekends. So there's still time left over to be playing music.
I mean, barely. You don't train, I'm guessing, before class, right? You don't do anything before
I do
class.
a lot of the time. I'll train, an hour in the morning or 2 hours in the morning.
Physical exercise?
Yeah.
Okay, so you wake up, 5 a.m. to train for an hour in the morning or 6 a.m.
Yep.
You then go commute in New York City to school. You go through a high school day, which is filled with a lot of fun stuff, but also probably a ton of bullshit and energy exhaustive activities of taking classes and dealing with this teacher and dealing with this person who's giving you trouble. And then, so you're tired all day after school. You're probably making your own food because you're just a badass. And then you get home, you exercise for 2 hours. It's already dinner time. You eat some dinner, do a little homework, and then play music till you go to bed.
Maybe minus the homework part, but yeah.
Okay, so that's good. You've gotten to eliminate that out of your life, which is great because clearly it doesn't serve you to study something right now that maybe you're not interested, because you have a direction in your life right now. You kind of know what you're doing. So I'm glad you've eliminated that after your life, even though I'm sure your teachers aren't happy. Who cares? It's not like you're doing it because you're lazy. You have other things that you're devoting your energy to.
Exactly.
But that's still a bonkers schedule, man. And I can relate to it. Not that I was doing it in high school, but I like to have that kind of hyper productivity these days in my life. But that's just an incredible, admirable schedule. That's unreal. I bet a lot of your friends look to you as just like, who is this? I mean, but in that schedule, you didn't leave too much time for social interaction.
That's correct.
Although I've spent time with you at Woodstock, and you are a great social person. You're not awkward. People love you. So, I mean, you're just an awesome dude. But when do you get to take the load off and just like shoot the shit with your friends and not do these, level 2 or whatever type 2 fun activities?
I get a solid half-hour a day. Lunch at school, we have like this weird thing where like we have something called flex period after lunch. So we basically have like an hour and a half lunch every day. So we just kind of BS for a solid hour and a half, and then I'll hang out for 20, 30 minutes with people after school.
And is that enough for
once
you?
or twice a week we've got a good little Netflix thing we do.
Okay.
I'll have like 5 or 6 of my homegirls over, and we'll watch Netflix and hang out.
Nice. Do you feel like you are balanced and have enough of an emotional and social support structure, or moving into college, are you thinking that that's something you want to change the amount of time, or are you satisfied with your lifestyle balance right now?
No, I'm pretty satisfied with my lifestyle balance right now. Mainly because also my like fitness community is the vast majority of my social community. So a lot of the time when I'm going out and doing these major 6 to 8 hour training rides, I'm with amazing people that I, love and care about, and we just have amazing conversation while we're doing it. And it's the most insane thing, and I'm sure you've experienced this as well, where all of a sudden you're like 6 hours into a ride and you just look around and you're like, wow, I totally feel like we've just been sitting around a living room, like having a conversation for like a couple hours and just hanging out. But we just rode 80 miles.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a wild feeling. I haven't had that as much. I mean, when I was living in Berkeley, I would do some bike rides with friends, but nowadays in my life, well, I guess on my bike tours I've done with other people, yeah, you're right. I do know what you're talking about. It's crazy how time can pass when you're still hanging in close proximities with some of your friends, even though like the internal struggle and your physical bodies are pushing yourself, you're still just kind of hanging out with people. There's like some
Yeah.
there's some nonverbal subconscious communication because you know you're both going through this together that you don't almost need to talk, but you're hanging out.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, exactly.
nowadays I do a lot of that hanging out with myself or hanging out with Maggie because I've just spent the last 5 months biking around by myself. But I still feel that with myself sometimes. I'm like, oh, 4 hours just passed, but I was talking to myself, processing stuff. Um, yeah. So what does the diet actually look
Yeah.
like? Let's
You know,
let's talk about it a little bit. What kind of foods are
so
you eating to fuel your lifestyle like this?
I'm a pretty simple guy, as you are.
Yep.
I'm like a oatmeal and smoothie in the morning kind of guy. Uh, with a nice cup of coffee. I'm a little into the bougie coffee thing.
Nice. I'm into green or black tea, but I haven't gotten into the coffee yet.
Yeah, skip it if you can.
Okay, so
But
smoothies and oats in
yes,
the morning.
smoothies and oats in the morning. Fruit for lunch. Some sort of like stir fry slash curry slash pasta at night.
So fruit for lunch. What do the students at your high school, how do they eat? Is there a cafeteria? Do people bring their own food? Do they go out?
Yeah, well, most high schools in New York, you get to go out, so you can just go out and do whatever you want. And there's also a lot of like good vegan food near my school. Um,
But you usually pack a lunch?
no, often I'll just like go and buy fruit during lunch.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about New York City that people, if you've never been there, there's just tons of markets like everywhere that sell
Yeah,
apples, melons, probably even mangoes, papayas, bananas. There's fruit everywhere in New York.
and I eat all of those things all the time during lunch.
Okay, so you'll just, go find, 8 ripe bananas and sit with your friends or do your own thing and eat some fruit.
Yeah, and I usually also don't like to eat too much during the day because I kind of feel like I eat in the morning and then I'm kind of like after that I'm like getting ready to ride. So most of my calories kind of come at night.
Yeah, same. I feel like I like to live that way too. Just kind of feel light and active and ready to go throughout the day and then just nourish yourself at night.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so you're eating pretty much a high carb, low fat, vegan diet, but nothing crazy. Like you also enjoy your, New York vegan donuts and ice cream and like,
Oh yeah.
I feel like you've always had a really balanced uh like eating protocol as long as I've known you. Did you ever struggle with like being a little bit too obsessed with nutrient quality and food like that?
I've tried to be too obsessed with it. I just can't.
Dude, that's a
Kyle
blessing.
pulls me in
Trust
the
me,
other direction.
that's a blessing. Trust me, you don't want to go the direction that I've gone where it becomes your life. It's much healthier and more balanced, and I can see it in your face that, it's just you can't put food so high on a pedestal, especially if you're young, you're physically active. Like it will not serve you to obsess and dial it in unless, yeah, you're getting pressure from your friends who are like, no, you'll like take your performance to the next level. But I call bullshit on that. I think you eat healthy enough where if you stopped eating the once a week junk food, it's not like that's going to crazy improve your performance.
Nope.
Nope.
But then the counter argument, the obsessive counter argument to that is when people say like, well, you only lost that last race by half an inch. It's like, all right, you know, maybe,
Wait,
but is it worth it?
does it ever come down to that much in such a long race?
Not in 24-hour races, but even in like races that are, 100 miles long, sometimes, yeah.
That is
because
ridiculous.
sometimes it's just too flat and you can't like separate yourself from the group. Like I did this 188 mile 3-day stage race. I've done it every year for the past like 4 or 5 years.
Jeez.
And this past year on the last day, it's a 94 mile day. I broke away at like mile 20, spent the whole day solo. And I'm like, yes, finally someone like got away and, you know, stuck it out solo. And I'm going to finish this race. Someone told me I had 9 minutes on the pack at one point. I rode the whole day solo. And then I got caught like a couple miles to go. And then it's still a bunch finish and someone won by like an inch.
Oh my God. So are they, so is there a pack? Are you drafting off of each other?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's very much the same
my
dynamics
God.
as road cycling. You're all inches away from each other.
F
Sometimes someone gets a
that.
little too close and you're pushing people and elbowing and
Ooh. Oh, and I'm guessing no headphones allowed in these races?
nope, you're allowed to wear headphones if you want.
Really?
Yep.
Do you listen to music during it?
Only in 24-hour races, not in
Yeah.
anything else.
So you'll do the
But-
100-mile without it?
Yeah, I don't need them.
Wow.
Actually, in that race, a lot of the time it's known for like its terrible pavement, and everyone thinks I'm listening to music, and I really put headphones in because your board just makes the worst, most disgusting noise. And then when you're in a pack of like 10 guys making that same noise, it's just the most terrible thing.
Oh, that's wild. Where's the coolest place you've traveled skateboarding?
Probably the Netherlands. You know, it's cool just to see new culture, see new places, see how they do things over there. They have an amazing skate culture over there because, you know, their infrastructure for riding is so great that, and, you know, everywhere in Europe is kind of easy to, you know, get to. It's easy to get from, you know, the Netherlands to France and whatever. So they'll all these guys will just like meet up every weekend and go do their major rides, and it's really cool.
Nice. Do you have any next plans for a race or a location?
Next plans for a race coming up, I have to either choose between this big 188 mile stage race that we were just talking about in May, or do a 100-mile ultra marathon in Vermont.
Wow. What's the longest run you've ever done, running race?
Longest running race I've done is 50K.
Wow.
So that's a big jump.
About 30 miles, 35 miles.
Yeah, 30, 31 and a half.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
a big
that is
jump.
a big jump.
But it's a looped course, and they have
Okay.
they have all these different, you can run in like the marathon there, the 50 miler, the 100 miler. Then they also have like a 250 mile and even longer ones. And my whole deal was like, well, I was gonna sign up for the 50, but like I could just sign up for the 100, and then worst case scenario drop out at 50.
Yeah. Yeah, why not?
And it's the same thing, and I don't care about the belt buckle or whatever. So
Exactly. Why not? My buddy Dylan, the Plant Power Podcast, he just 2 days ago ran 60K on the Tarahuara, whatever it's called, in New Zealand. He's running
Tarahumara. Yeah.
He's running ultra like every year. What else you want to talk about, bro? Like, what else is going on in your life that occupies any time and energy other than the things we've discussed? Or, like, you know, what worries you right now about culture or your life? Are you stuck up on politics, on relationships, on your physical body? Like, what else is it that you focus your thoughts on? Is it animal rights? Is it the health of the world? You know.
We have all the hippy dippy conversations about animal rights and how it's, just how insanely terrible it is that we have so many people in this world who know everything that they do is so incredibly wrong, and how 3 meals a day they're, responsible for destroying another life, and they still think that that doesn't affect their consciousness. That is something that blows me away constantly. And me and you like take that for granted because, that's not something that really affects us because we don't have as much of that burden on us.
Right.
And you don't always realize it. But every once in a while, I just kind of look around at everyone eating around me, and I'm like, wow,
Yes, I do know. And how do you navigate that as a student? You've been vegan for your whole entire high school career. I'm guessing most of your friends in high school are not vegan. And have you gotten pretty desensitized to that? Is it still a point of conversation with your friends?
I try to make it a point of conversation, but not make it a point of argument, because bottom line is me hating on someone is never going to change the world. If you tell a bunch of people like, well, you're fucking wrong and I'm right, and your life is bad because X, Y, and Z, like no one's going to listen to you. So you have to do your best to be nice about it. But at the same time, you want to talk about it. But I don't want to hate on anyone, and I'm sure you don't.
No, it doesn't work that way. We're so inspiring just with doing what we're doing that we actually don't need to go out as much and have those conversations with individuals because if we devoted all our time to answering emails and comments on Instagram from the people who are already coming to our pages who are interested in being vegan, if we devoted our time and energy to helping those people versus just trying to convert, your friends and family who are in your circle that are never going to change, there's enough people who just need a little help taking it to the next step. And that's a much more compassionate way to communicate these concepts to people because, they already have their mindset that they're interested in making changes in the first place.
Exactly.
This is a question I want to start asking my guests because I just find it interesting. What are 3 items or apps or something like that? Like it can be a physical item or a program or that you use in your like day-to-day or weekly life that is kind of a unique product that most people maybe don't even own or use. I want 3 from you. You can think about it if you need time.
Well, I think everyone out there needs like a creative outlet that isn't, or not just an outlet, but a creative outlet. You make pottery, you draw, you're into tattoos.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Personally, I'm like somehow cannot be stimulated like that visually. Like I can't draw. I don't like it. I can admire other people's art, but it just doesn't do it for me. And I get all of that auditorily, if that's a word, through music. So, as I think everyone needs to be spending time every day doing something creative and expressing themselves that way. So, I'll say maybe guitar.
Yeah.
For one item.
Okay.
2, I'll go on a completely different path, and I'll say Strava, which is social media for athletes.
Yeah, tell people what Strava is.
Strava is basically Facebook for endurance athletes. You can basically log all your mileage and things like that, and all your workouts on there, and as well as follow all of your friends. And I know you're on Strava.
Yeah, I haven't been posting recently just because I haven't been well, I mean, I've been biking, but just locally. But I have all my travels, all my bike touring is on Strava for like pretty much every trip I've done in the last few years.
Yeah, Strava's awesome, and for me, it serves as a lot of inspiration when I see all my friends out there riding, having a good time, putting in big miles. It's like super inspiring to me, but that could also have a negative effect on some people who have, exercise addiction problems where.
For sure. Yeah.
Or, social media for a lot of people just makes people feel left out and things like that.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think Strava is a pretty positive thing and it inspires people to be more active.
Nice. Sorry, I just wanted to have a little section of Maggie so you can hang out with her. She's looking at you in the screen. She sees you.
So where do you get that name, Maggie?
Her name was Maggie at the shelter.
Oh, nice.
But I had to decide when I rescued her, do I want to change her name or keep it? And of course, psychologically, it's best to keep someone's name. Like that'd be kind of weird if someone changed your name when you were 2 years old. So, and then I thought about it. I was like, huh, Maggie. And I really have been into this artist, Maggie
Maggie
Rodgers.
Rodgers.
Yeah, so she went to
I was
NYU.
that.
She's probably like a New York City legend, huh?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so Maggie Rodgers is a great artist and musician who I've been listening to a lot because right when I was leaving for Alaska in September, Ali Ertel was like, "Hey, you should listen to this song Alaska by
Yeah, Ali's
Maggie
really into
Rodgers,"
her.
and it's been a total like she's been like my theme music for a lot of my trip that I just did was listening to her. And then I also really love the song Maggie's Farm by Bob Dylan. So I just love Maggie. So it's her name is Maggie. It's perfect.
That's literally the reason I was asking. I was like, what are the chances that it has anything to do with Maggie Rodgers?
No, it's definitely a part of it.
Dude,
But yeah,
she's so rad. She's like
it's so good.
totally free. I've just like seeing videos of her, being into her music, just the way that she feels music in her body. I feel like I can relate to that so much.
Mm. Yeah, it's such a good combination of like soul, uh, funk, indie,
Folk too.
like pop, folk. It
Yeah.
really is just a unique sound, and she's so good.
And to me,
But
she's really one of the only pop musicians out there at the moment that's making music that's easily digestible and easy to understand for most people, and but also has a lot of emotion and a lot of feeling in it and a lot of meaningful lyrics.
yes. Did she have any other songs besides the like 5 songs on her Spotify?
I know she's working on an album right now, but
Well, yeah, I mean,
but
she's
for
probably
the
going to
most
be a
part,
massive famous artist. But yeah, I think she's so new because she got like discovered by Pharrell at like her class in NYU, and he was just
yeah,
like,
at
"You're
like a
fucking
master class.
yeah." He's like, "You're epic," and then she just blew up. So I'm excited for her music to come out. Okay, so that's 2 items so far. What's your third unique Harrison item that most people don't use?
Most people. Hmm. I'm gonna have to say probably the skateboard, man. I
Yeah,
think
yeah. That's what I was gonna say for
everyone needs the
you.
skateboard.
Yeah,
Dude,
most people don't have probably your type of skateboard.
I think everyone needs like a good longboard skateboard in their life, dude.
Hell yeah.
Like,
I mean, I obviously don't have one on the bike, but growing up, I had freaking 4 of them in my garage that I would hit up any
and,
different day
and
throughout the
dude, in New
week.
York City, it's so convenient to commute because you don't have to lock it like a bike. You can just take it indoors with you
Yeah.
anywhere. It's way cheaper than a bike. It's not the same responsibility. The maintenance is way easier.
Do you have, just like how a cyclist might have a couple tires, a few tubes, patch kits, do you have like a little area in your house with like wheels and bearings and trucks and grip tape?
Dude, over the years, I've accumulated so much stuff
Yeah,
from sponsors and from winning prizes.
yeah.
The other the other week, I gave away like 40 something skateboards.
What?
Yeah, and
Wild.
I still have about that many.
Yeah, I remember years ago you said you'd give me a skateboard, but unfortunately I can't take you up on the offer anymore because I don't think I should bring a skateboard on the bike.
I've seen people do it, but I'm with you on don't do that.
No, dude, now my life is about to change so much. So, I've been carrying about 50 pounds of gear, for the last couple years of taking bike tours and the last like
You're
five
about to
months
triple
of being
that,
on the
aren't you?
road. I'm about to pretty much triple that because Maggie weighs 50 pounds, so there's double, and then I have to carry Maggie's food, a few toys, and the trailer itself weighs 25 pounds. So if Maggie's in the trailer, I'm pulling 125 pounds or more of weight now. I mean, my life is about to really change. Like how I've been riding, if I needed to ride a 70-mile day to get to the next town, that was very feasible for me over the last few months. That's now just out of the question. I'm maxing out around like 40 miles because Maggie loves to run. She doesn't like being in the trailer, so she demands to run at least like a half marathon before getting in that trailer. She's a beast. So,
That's
but
crazy.
her running a half marathon is a lot slower than me biking 13 miles because
Yeah.
she's running it. So I have to be slow and have patience with her, which I'm cool because like I'll be honest, I love traveling on a bicycle, but I'm not doing it to try to be fast or to race or anything. Like I truly just enjoy the experience. So I'm just like coasting by for like 2 hours as she's running, and then she gets tired enough and I throw her in the trailer, and then I have to max the fuck out because oh my God, my legs on like my training rides with her over the last few weeks, climbing up a low gradient, pulling her and all my gear is really hard. I actually just bought, it just came in yesterday. I bought a 42
Yeah. Oh,
tooth
42.
cassette.
Jesus Christ.
Dude, I had to buy, yeah.
Dude, that's a
42.
pizza. That's not even a mini pizza anymore. That's a pizza cassette.
Yeah, I also had to buy this part that actually increases the length or
Yeah,
the
a
width
road link.
of the hub so that the like derailleur can switch to that 42 cassette. So,
Yeah, the little road link to like extend the derailleur. Is that what you're talking about?
no, the derailleur length is fine. It looks like a little mini cassette that you put just to like separate the derailleur out because it has more.
Oh,
Because now I have 10 speeds on my bike where before I've had 9 because I'm just adding a cassette to the
yeah.
just one ring. So yeah, it's gonna be really gnarly. I don't know how, we'll just go, we'll just take it slow. But we have the first few like we have the first week and a half pretty much planned out with places to stay, and every day is like a 25 to 40-mile ride. So we'll figure it out.
That's really cool, man. I'm excited to see what you're doing there. You gonna be at Woodstock this summer, or
I'm
are you gonna be
not.
riding?
I
No.
think I'm gonna be riding, man. I made the choice. I really want to try to ride my bicycle from Alaska to Argentina without really taking myself out of the journey. And right now I've been in the luxury of my family's house for the last 5 weeks, but I rode my bike here and I'm riding my bike out. It's just a stopping point on the journey. And of course, if life gets in the way and I need to fly somewhere for a family emergency or for my own safety or whatever, I'm not opposed to that. But if all goes to my plan, I want to truly be like rooted on the earth and ride my bicycle uninterrupted for the next couple years throughout Central and South America. And I hope that all my friends like you honestly do come and visit, like Airbnbs for a month. We don't even have to ride. Like I want to post up. My travels are going to be a lot different. Maggie and I are going to ride for like a week or two and then stay somewhere for a month or two, and then ride for another week or two and stay for a while. So I want friends to meet up with me, get Airbnbs, come bike with me for a week. But yeah, I don't see myself like flying to Woodstock or things like that. Even though I love Woodstock and it's sad, it'll be my first year in 5 years not going, but I just want to truly have this experience, you know?
I support you, man. And
Yeah.
I'm definitely down to come hang out.
Oh, I can't wait. Do you have any summer plans for right after you graduate before starting college?
Well, I'm gonna be racing in the Netherlands again, so I'll be there for a couple weeks, and I'm probably gonna be around in Europe for a little while for a few weeks. So that's really it, though.
Cool. And then you start in the fall. What's your living situation be like? What is the Naropa? Do they even have dorms, or do they let you do
They
your own
they
thing?
they do have dorms, and it's required for first year, but they're pretty rad dorms.
Nice.
They're pretty spacious, and everyone has a kitchen. So yeah,
Unreal. Well, you're
there's not
definitely
much to complain about.
you're definitely going to be frequenting, well, maybe not frequenting because it's about a 2 hour, hour and a half drive, and I'm guessing you won't have a car. You probably don't even
I'm,
drive.
I'm gonna I'm gonna have a car.
Do you even drive? You're from New York City, And you ride a
Yeah,
skateboard.
I'm one of the few New Yorkers who has a driver's license. I got my driver's license as soon as I could.
Yeah,
Dude,
it's
I literally,
nice.
this is kind of an interesting story, and I'll keep
Yeah.
it quick. But basically, as soon as I was eligible to get a driver's license, like on my 17th birthday or whatever, like the next day I road tripped up to Maine solo to like go to a training camp.
Jeez. Wait, were you 17 or 16? Because it's 16 you can get your license.
It's 17 here.
Really? In New York?
Yeah.
That's weird. I didn't know it was different state to state. That's hilarious. My parents were so, oh my God, I mean, my parents are just extremely anxious and paranoid people. I love them to death, but oh my God, they didn't let me like drive more than 2 miles for like, I feel like 6 months after I got my license. So that's pretty cool that your parents gave you
My
that
dad was
freedom.
like, "Yep, here's the car keys. All right, have fun."
That's dope. So yeah, that sounds amazing, man. I hope that, yeah, I hope you discover a whole new side of yourself. Like you've always been tuned in to like, you know, living to the beat of your own drum, no pun intended, like, 'cause you do such unique things, and I feel like you've never been afraid to be yourself. But being in such a different place is going to expose you to a culture and just energy that's totally different. I have some spots I'll tell you about in Boulder and in Colorado in general that are just trippy, man. I want you to hang out at this Hindu ashram that like once in a while on a school break I would go to, and you can spend a couple days. It's totally free. You just have to like chant mantras and clean the floors with them. It's in Crestone, Colorado. It's next to a nudist hot springs. I know this group of hippies that meet like every month in this geodesic dome in the mountains in Nederland, Colorado, which is just up the road from Boulder. And they like, trip out on mushrooms and play crystal bowls, and just there's some crazy shit going on there, and you're gonna expose yourself to it, and who knows like the transformations you're gonna have. I'm so excited for you.
Thanks, man. And I'm excited to see everything that you do on this pretty epic journey that you're going on down in South America.
Thanks. Anything else you want to share to the people? Maybe my final question will be, if someone's listening to this and just feels like they need to do a lot of personal work in order to get themselves on like a healthier path of getting shit done, because that's clearly what you're sort of an expert in. You've really been disciplined enough, and you've had the fire within you to, there's a lot of planning that you have to do in your life. It can't be completely just lighthearted and, you wake up every day and say, what am I going to do? You've been able to section out your day to get in a lot throughout the day. And what would be your recommendation to someone who just feels like the day gets lost with them? They don't have enough time. They're not organized. How do you stay on track with devoting the time and energy into your passions instead of just like letting life get in the way?
Definitely solid routines and knowing what you're doing and being pretty strict with that. But at the same time, you need to be somewhat open to being flexible.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely solid routine is key. Doing, about the same thing day in, day out, and, just knowing what your next step is every day.
Mm.
And as far as making life changes goes, planning is also key, and starting small. Don't start at any goal too lofty. If you're not an athlete, don't say, I'm going to go run a 100-mile ultramarathon. Don't suggest that.
Right. Or if you want to get healthy, it's not like you have to become a fruitarian tomorrow. Just like take your time. Don't burn out.
Yeah. And start small. Start. I always think it's best if you first build the frequency that you do something. So let's say, just if you're going to be doing, starting working out or starting running or cycling or skateboarding or whatever, first build frequency. So work on doing it, for 15 minutes a day, 2 days a week, and then work up to 5 days a week, and then start working on duration, building up the duration of how long those rides are, how long those workouts are, and then start working on speed and, making that a lot faster and starting getting into structured workouts.
Those are great tips, because I feel like a lot of people they see someone on social media, they get jazzed up to start a new activity or a new sport, and it can be confusing. Should I focus on my miles? Should I focus on the time I spend out there? And that was really good advice.
Yeah, and it's also a lot of people, they set lofty goals and then they try them and they realize how hard it is, and then they're not motivated anymore and they're like, fuck that, it's not for me, I'm out.
Right. Well, I love you, brother. Thanks so much for chatting. Anything else you need to share to the people? Maybe
nope. I mean, yeah, Instagram is Harrison_NYC. That's where I post food and skating stuff and biking and running stuff, a lot of that kind of realm. My Snapchat is the exact same name, Harrison_NYC, and I've been posting some music stuff every day there. So if you're into any of that stuff, then go check it out. But
do you know for yourself?
I'm not offended if you're not.
No, they'll be into it. You're a funny, charismatic, handsome, and also just impressive person. There's no reason people wouldn't want to follow you on social media. Do you have a specific feeling right now of like, I want to be a part of a band and be a professional musician, or I want to just play music for fun and study it and then be a professional skateboarder? Do you have that wrapped around in your head, or do you see them as going hard full on in both of those things at the same time?
I'm going to charge hard in both of those realms and, see which one takes off. I'm really open to both, and I really love both.
Are you into like a solo career with music or playing in bands?
Probably not. Probably playing in bands or playing like as a studio musician is what kind of really interests me.
Cool. Yeah, you could probably find some opportunities in Boulder. There's enough people to start some bands and play stuff, I'm guessing.
Yeah, no, they actually have a pretty solid music scene there.
Cool. All right, brother. Well, thanks so much for coming on. I love you, man.
Yeah, man. It's been really great.
I hope that one day you either hop on the bike with me for a couple weeks and come live life with me, or I've seen some crazy shit of people who like pull trailers on a skateboard and do skateboard touring. That's a thing.
Yeah, I've seen that too. I got buddies who do that.
Hey man, if you can figure out logistics of how to do that, and you ever said, yo, let's go do like a couple 100-mile 2-week skateboarding tour, I would jump on that in a heartbeat.
I would be very interested to figure that out. Or maybe I'll come join you on the bike for a couple weeks this summer.
Oh my God, that'd be incredible. Where will I be in the summer? What is it now? Like February, March, April, May, June? Oh, around June or July, I'll either be at the southern tip of Baja, Mexico, which is ideal, like Cabo San Lucas area, or I will have just taken a ferry over to the mainland of Mexico, and I'll be headed towards Mexico City into the mountains. So this summer will be a perfect time. We'll see.
I'm definitely down to try and explore that.
Or if after your race in frickin' Netherlands or something, you want to sit by the beach for a week and eat papayas, we could also rent an Airbnb and do that. Just let me know. All right, thanks, dude.
Interesting perspective plan.
Yeah, there are a lot of options. You just need to hit me up because I truly love you, brother. I've always been inspired by you, and I'm just glad to have you as a friend. So thanks for coming on. Check this guy out. Much love, Dream Extreme, everyone. Just another reminder, check out Daily Green Boost. If you see it in my vlogs and you see my green monster slop that I eat, it's super good for your body. You're supporting a vegan company. You get 10% off your purchase if you use Plantriotic in the discount code when you are purchasing it. And it is, good for your body. Did I mention that? And it helps support Maggie and I bike around the world. Go check out my Patreon page if you're digging the podcast and want to see more episodes and you like my YouTube channel. It's the best way to support. $1, $2 a month. If you can fit that within your budget and do watch my content, I promise it might seem like not a lot, but if everyone does that together, that's a really big impact on Maggie and I's life. So I appreciate that. Go follow Harrison. All the links will be in the description. and just be yourself. Thanks for listening. Send me an email if you need any support. I'm still selling veg head shirts. You guys have been buying those before I leave for Mexico. So I appreciate that. And just keep on trucking. Live your life passionately and compassionately. That's kind of the big takeaway I feel like with Harrison is go hard in what your heart wants to do and do it also in a mindful way. So peace out, much love, Dream Extreme everyone, and thanks for listening.